So this talk is about grief. Grief is the suffering of loss. In fact, dictionary.com, which I found on the internet, which means it's okay. So dictionary.com defines grief as the keen mental suffering or distress or affliction, sharp sorrow, painful regret. Now, there are many things that can cause us grief, like our spouses sometimes. Just a minute, I see somebody. Hi, Stephen. How you doing? Okay. So, this talk is about losing someone very close to you, how you deal with that. And it is a necessary part of life. Grieving is very important. In fact, medical people will tell you that if you don't grieve, you're in trouble of other things, mental illnesses happening to you. So it's important to grieve. How you grieve, how long you grieve, those are not as important. So, almost a year ago, I lost someone very close to me. For those of you who know Karen, it was a great loss. For those of you who don't, in the next few slides I've got a little picture thing and a voiceover, and I'm going to talk about her. But you have to understand, we were married for 28 years. I knew her for almost 30. And she was my better half. There's no doubt in my mind that I hit the wife lotto. You know, I married way above my station. Not to put too fine a point on it, I really miss her. Am I done grieving? Not so much. But has a lesson from a year ago? Yes, significantly. In fact, about 5 years ago, I had a stroke. And people that have strokes suffers from something called PBA, pulse bulbar effect, or they can suffer. And you've probably heard of this. You either laugh uncontrollably or cry uncontrollably. Can you imagine laughing at someone's funeral and can't control it? Wow. All right. So I have the crying bruising. So I can't watch Old Yeller or Brian's song without 3 or 4 boxes of tissues. It's not so bad anymore. But a few years ago, it was so bad that I'd cry for minutes at a time without any prompting. But last year, when Karen passed, it was very difficult because things that would trigger memories of her would cause me to cry uncontrollably. There were days, literally days, when I was just weepy all day. Couldn't stop. But that's part of the process. I missed her. For those of you who don't know, this is my wife, Karen. Well, I met her 29 years ago, over almost 30, April 24th. She wasn't really good with dates. Like, we were married for 5 years before she nailed down when my birthday was. She had an awesome sense of humor. After I proposed to her, she asked me this one question: why do you want to marry me? And I told her she was beautiful, but that wasn't really the reason. I wanted to marry her because she was smart. And so when gravity has its inevitable effect, and it will, we'll have stuff to talk about. The picture on the lower left is of her and Victoria. The one on the upper right is also her and Victoria. It's one of my favorite baby pictures of Victoria because Karen looks so pleased. And then the lower right is a picture of all 3 of us. I had hair then, and I could walk. The picture on the left is from Easter, and it's in the backyard of Karen's parents. You know, Karen had a predilection for mommy and me dresses, so they always matched. The picture on the top right is the 3 of us at an event. It was no big deal, but it was an event that we were all at. The bottom picture on the right is a Halloween, and Karen was a tiger and Victoria was a skunk. The picture on the top right is one of my favorites. Karen and Victoria would go to B.E. Taylor every year, but the tickets were usually given at Christmas time or on Karen's birthday, to Victoria. And then near Christmas time, they'd go to the concert. Well, this year, Karen got the tickets and she was kind of gloating, "Maybe I'll take you, Victoria." The picture on the lower right is just of the two of us. Again, I had a lot more hair. The picture on the left is the favorite picture of Karen and me. It's also my Facebook profile picture. But the funny thing is that we're being posed for the picture. We're on a cruise ship to Canada. And it was very uncomfortable, that pose. And I'm thinking, there's no way this is going to look nice. But it did. I guess the photographer knew what he was about. The picture on the left is Karen on a cruise making a towel animal. She loved towel animals. In fact, I bought her a book and she learned to make many of them. The picture on the lower right is of Karen and the Blanketeer, Project Linus. Project Linus makes blankets for neonatal intensive care children and their mothers. The picture on the top right has a little story behind it. Every year, Karen would buy an engraved pen for my daughter Victoria. One year, Karen picked a pen up, put it in Victoria's stocking, and it was no big deal, but when Victoria opened the pen, it was labeled Veronica. So Karen never got to live that down. That was really amusing. The thing you have to understand, though, is that when Victoria went to college this year, I bought her an engraved pen. It says Veronica. In Ecclesiastes 3:2, it says there's a time to be born and a time to die. It's true. You know, I often joke that over the next 120 years, if Jesus doesn't come back, over 7.3 billion people will die. Although it's a ridiculous joke, the truth is, it's true. There are 7.3 billion people on the planet today. None of them are going to live to be 120 years old. Further, there will be people that will be born in the next 10, 20, 30 years that won't make it to 120. So yes, over 7.3 billion people will die over the next 120 years if Jesus doesn't come back. That's a lot of grieving. That's a lot of people missing people. You know, it's a silly joke. It really is. I get it. But the point of it is that every single day people pass from this earth. And some of them go to heaven to be with Jesus. Absent from the body, present with the Lord. But you know, the people that are passing aren't the ones that are hurting. It's those of us left behind that were close to them. You know, it's difficult sometimes to get through a day. Some of the things that you're going to go through are going to be that you used to do with your spouse, your child, your aunt, whoever the person was that was close to you, are going to be that much more difficult. Some of them merely because that event will remind you of the person, cause you to grieve. You know, you are going to hurt over the loss of someone. It's unavoidable. In fact, there was a study done. They were trying to determine whether air traffic controllers had the most stressful jobs. And so they surveyed a whole bunch of people over a variety of events. And they discovered two things. The death of a spouse is the most stressful event that you can undergo in life, period. Followed closely by divorce. Air traffic control barely made the top 10. You're going to hurt. There are events that occur every day that you used to do with your spouse, your loved one. And it's hard to avoid. You used to go to the grocery store with them. You used to take them to the dentist, things of that nature. And events that you go to shortly after they pass is going to trigger very strong emotional responses. There isn't anything you can do about it. Many things that you're going to undergo and deal with in regular life are going to trigger memories. And I've kind of classified those memories of your loved one in two categories. What I call fond memories, things that you remember pleasantly about them, and disruptive. Disruptive memories are those, they might be fond memories, but they trigger strong emotional response primarily because they're a surprise. We'll talk about both kinds. But what you want to do is maximize the fond memories while almost eliminating the disruptive ones. And you're not going to be able to completely eliminate them. We're just going to take steps to limit them. Fond memories are those memories that you have pleasant, fond, maybe it's a trip to an amusement park, maybe it's just gardening, whatever the event, it just triggers memories that you fondly remember that person. There's not much negative emotional content. It's just, it makes you think, oh, that's nice. And those are the good kind of memories. They don't really rough you up emotionally. They don't cause you to break down. It's just bittersweet. And it might be, very, very specific things. And it might be general. But these are the types of memories that we want to focus on. Realize your loved one is gone. God willing, they're Christians, so they're with the Lord. And if they're not, there's nothing you can do about that either. So the fond memories are the best ones to keep. Disruptive memories are very difficult. Shortly after Karen passed, I was cleaning out our desk, the big desk that we have in the living room, and Karen mostly used it for financial and household record keeping, which was okay. But since she passed, I was cleaning it out to make it my office desk. And I stumbled across a series of cards that Karen had written to Victoria when Victoria was in elementary school, and some little stackable, lunch inserts, for lack of a better word. She used to pack me lunch. And when I worked at Carnegie Mellon, she'd pack me a lunch, and every once in a while she'd put one of these little cards in my lunch. And they were just I love you notes, but encouraging phrases and stuff like that. I really liked them. But I ran across her stash. And that made me think of her putting the notes in my lunch. It made me think, very fondly of her. But because it was such a surprise, it just shook me to my core. Made me weepy for hours. Now, I hate admitting that I cry. I'm a guy. We're not allowed to cry. But I have never been so emotionally destroyed as when Karen passed. And it's just the way it is. And over the summer, I kept running into little stashes of things that were just reminders of Karen. Maybe it was a favorite pen of hers. One of the ones was a wooden calendar she used to keep. And she used to be frustrated with it monthly because of the way the numbers played. And she just always used to yell about it being a better design. But it crushed me when I ran across the bag of numbers. Now, I keep on my mantle pictures of her. That's on purpose. That's where I go when I just want to fondly remember her. It doesn't bother me. It's just a series of memories that are not a surprise. They're pleasant, but it's the way I've set up to deal with it. Now, I don't know if these techniques will work for you, but it made me able to deal with all the memories of coming across and just running into stuff, cleaning out her closet. Her sister came over and cleaned out the clothes from her closet. And there was a particular blouse of Karen's that I remember she wore to specific events. It was not a good thing. It made me cry for a while. Her sister said, "Do you want to keep this?" No, I really don't. Because it destroyed me. I don't need those kind of memories. So, the way I coped, I avoided disruptive memories. And that's my current algorithm, for lack of a better word. Algorithm just means the way of doing things. But it's math. It's a math thing. Yes, I'm a geek. Don't tell anyone. It's a secret. All right. So, what I did was maximize the fond memories. So I put a number of photographs of Karen in places that I'd be sure to see them pretty regularly, almost every day. And put them in places that I knew to look for them, so that when I came into that room, my eye would automatically seek them out. So I'd remember fondly. And I purged as many disruptive memories as I could. I think I'm pretty good now. I don't run into those surprise grieving episodes. And I gotta be honest with you, being emotionally weepy is part of the process. You miss them. You were very close to them. There's not really anything you can do about it. We're just hoping to minimize them. Grieving is a very important process. As I mentioned earlier, medical experts will be very concerned if you don't grieve. It's not the manner of your grieving, it's grieving at all. It's important. If you don't, it'll just be bottled up inside you and it'll explode out of you in ways that you have no idea. So it's important. But as Pastor Floyd mentioned last week, no one can tell you how long, how far you should grieve. It's personal. What you're doing is relieving a lot of stress. There's a lot of events that are piled up in your whole American brain about being with that person, having arguments, having good events. The problem is that they're all captured and now that person is gone. And so you'll have to live through a whole series of events to minimize those painful feelings. There's nothing you can do about it. Remember dictionary.com's definition, a keen loss. You have to go through it. And, the length of time, how deeply you grieve, that's all very, very personal. And sometimes people think they know best. Oh, don't feel bad. Time heals all wounds. Really? Somebody tells them another platitude, bang, zoom to the moon. Not really, but That's the problem. No one can really tell you unless they've been through it. Two people, Larry Johnson and Diana Serpa, helped me a lot during this time because they've been through it. And the one thing that they really expressed to me, it really bummed me out one day. I'm talking to Larry and he said, even 10 years later, you're just going to have periods of time where it's just going to crush you. Thank you. I was hoping to be done by then. But okay, that's the way it is. That's somebody that's been very close to you for a very long time, and it's never going to leave until you end up with them. When Karen passed, a weird event occurred. She waited deliberately until Victoria and I were both out of the room to pass. And talking to the hospice people later, apparently that's a very common thing. Now, the hospice people were really nice. And the one thing that really affected me was they took a blouse of Karen's and made a teddy bear. They called it a memory bear. But I'm really grateful to it because I keep the bear on my couch, and sometimes I find myself turning around in mid-television show, some show that Karen and I used to watch together, turning back to the bear and talking to it. It used to be when it was empty space that I'd turn around and be surprised that Karen wasn't there. Now that I see the bear, it's a reminder that she's passed, and so I just talk to the bear. It's okay, I have to talk to something. But that process really helped me. Something that offset, because that was a source of an ongoing disruptive memory. Watching some TV show and be reminded that Karen's not there to watch it with me. But, works out fine. And just the fact of replacing the missing Karen with a bear helped. I know it sounds silly, but it helped. Really did. Dana Serpa and Larry Johnson told me that the pain never goes away. It'll fade over time, but it doesn't really go away. The intensity is greater at the beginning. Later on, it'll just be passing regrets and passing things that you remember fondly or disruptively, but they don't have as much impact anymore. But that period of time is going to be way off in the future. Just take it a day at a time. That's all you can do. That's all God gives us. Measure of one day at a time. Grief is an important process. Doesn't make it any less painful. And some events that occur, you will never get over. They will be strong for a long time. And there's nothing you can do about it. Just deal with it the best you can. Grieve in the way that seems best to you, for how long it seems best to you. But be aware it's very necessary. Everyone faces loss at some point. But God's going to wipe all the tears from our eyes. We'll be joined again with those loved ones that are Christians. That's encouraging. Paul said we should not all sleep, die. But some of us will change. Encourage each other with these words. We're going to be rejoined. That's great. And that'll be a process. That'll be a very joyful homecoming. Can you imagine, after 50 years of not seeing your loved one, meeting up with them in heaven? That's going to be awesome. That's going to be awesome. Until then, you'll have to deal with the day-to-day environmental issues, disruptive memories, fond memories, events that remind you so strongly of your loved one that you just break down and have to stop. Nothing you can do about it. It's the way it is. Take comfort in the fact that God loves you. Think about what He went through. He sent His only Son to become a human and die on the cross physically. He was rejoined with the Son pretty quickly. But that particular amount of grief, I believe he had to go through too. So it's not a surprise to him that we suffer from this. But it is something that will go away. It will pass. Realize that it's not a tragedy to die. Everyone dies. It's a tragedy to die without Christ. Next week, Pastor Floyd will talk about the issues with somebody, a loved one of yours, passing that is not a Christian. You know, I have this person that I know. All my friends are Christians. And in order to be a friend, quote, a friend, they have to be a Christian. They have to be a Christ follower. There are a number of people that are friendly acquaintances that I've known for a long time, but they're not Christians. So this person at Carnegie Mellon I've known for many, many years. He lost his mother. I don't know how he deals with it because he's an atheist. So in his opinion, she's gone forever. He's never going to see her again, in his opinion. That's got to be horrible. I wouldn't know how to deal with that. I'm glad that I am a Christian. And to avoid tragedy, it should be something that you consider too. Pastor Floyd's going to come up and close out the service today. Thank you for listening. You know, it's still hard, even almost after a year. And I'm a rookie.